Welcome to this deep dive. We're diving into building wealth, a beginner's guide to securing your financial future. That opening question, what is your definition of wealth, really got me thinking.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So easy to get caught up in just the numbers, right? But this guide really pushes you beyond just like dollar signs.
Absolutely.
What stood out to you?
Well, we always talk about wealth in terms of like assets, net worth, all that.
Right.
But this guide, I thought, takes a really personal approach.
Okay, yeah.
It's like wealth isn't just about money. It's about, achieving what matters most to you.
I like that.
Whether that's, like putting your kids through college or traveling the world.
Yeah.
Or starting your dream business, whatever it is.
Right. It's a tool to help us live our best lives.
Exactly.
Not the end goal itself.
Yeah.
Speaking of tools, I thought the guide's breakdown of the wealth equation was really, really helpful. That simple formula, assets minus liabilities equals net worth. They even had that example, I think his name was Anthony, who's 35, trying to figure out kind of where he stands financially using a balance sheet.
Yeah.
What did you think about that section?
The wealth equation, it's like finance 101, right?
Right.
But I think what's cool is this emphasis on wealth building assets.
Yep.
It's not just like what you own in. It's about what you own that appreciates in value.
Right.
Or generates income.
Right.
Your car, for instance, not really a wealth building asset.
Oh, right.
Loses value over time.
Oh, yeah. Like a new phone.
Exactly.
Out of the store, it's like half the price.
Yeah, exactly.
So like what would be a good example then of a wealth building asset?
Well, you could think about something like real estate.
Okay.
A house, generally speaking, appreciates in value over time.
Right.
Investments, things like stocks, bonds, those have the potential to really grow over the long term.
Right.
It's about making your money work for you.
Yeah. I like that.
Not just sitting there.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I first started learning about personal finance, this whole concept of a wealth building asset kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, totally.
It changes how you look at everything, right? It's like, is this helping me build wealth or is it just a thing?
Yeah, I like that.
So speaking of growth, let's talk about budgeting. I thought it was interesting. The guide introduces these two characters, Sonia and Gabby.
Right.
Sonia is like a master budgeter. Gabby is like more of a wishful thinker. It's like night and day, their spending habits.
Yeah.
Sonia's budgeting allows her to actually save consistently. While Gabby kind of struggles. Does that kind of ring true with what you've seen?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Sonia's story, she's a doer, right? She's putting her plans into action. She's not just dreaming about saving. She's tracking her spending, making adjustments, and she's consistent.
Yeah, and it pays off.
Absolutely, it pays off.
And the guide, it doesn't just say hey, budget. It gives you a blank budget sheet.
That's great.
To get started, it's like, here are the tools, now go make it happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, now get ready for this. This part kind of blew my mind. Compound interest.
Oh, yeah.
It's powerful stuff.
It is.
They have this chart, Gabby, saving $125 a month for 30 years.
Right.
And the impact of different interest rates is it's incredible.
Yeah, it really shows you the power of starting early.
It does.
Right, letting your money grow exponentially.
Yeah. Compound interest is like magic.
Yeah.
Especially over those long periods.
Yeah, earning interest on your interest, essentially.
Yeah. But here's where it gets kind of scary.
Right.
Compound interest has a dark side.
It does, yeah.
It can work against you just as powerfully.
Yeah.
Debt, credit card debt especially.
Yeah, that's the big one.
If you're just making those minimum payments on your credit cards, you're basically letting compound interest erode your wealth instead of building it.
Right, exactly.
It's like digging a deeper hole every month.
Yeah, it's a good way to think about it. Like a snowball.
Right.
Rolling downhill, gathering more and more snow as it goes.
So let's dive into investing. That's where things get kind of exciting. The guide breaks down a bunch of different options like bonds, stocks, mutual funds, even starting your own business, which one of the characters in the guide does. David, he starts an HVAC company.
Right.
Pretty inspiring.
Yeah, it is.
What did you think about that part?
I really appreciated that the guide, it doesn't shy away from the risk-return relationship, right?
Right.
Introduces the idea of the investment pyramid, which is this visual tool to help you assess your risk tolerance.
Okay, so tell me more about this investment pyramid. How does it actually work?
Okay, so imagine a pyramid, right? Different levels represent different levels of risk and potential return.
Got it.
So at the base, you've got your low-risk options, savings accounts, bonds. Those offer stability, but, lower potential returns.
Okay.
As you go up, you encounter stocks, mutual funds, a little more risk, but also potential for higher returns.
Yeah.
And then at the very top, you got your higher risk investments, starting your own business, or investing in more volatile assets.
So it's about finding your comfort zone on that pyramid.
Exactly.
If you're just starting out, lower risk tolerance, stick to the base, those safer investments.
Yeah.
But then, as you gain experience, maybe your risk appetite increases. You could venture a little higher.
Exactly. And it's important to remember, it's not static.
Right.
Your position can and should kind of evolve over time as your goals change, your knowledge changes.
Yeah. Yeah. The guide emphasizes that investing isn't some get-rich-quick scheme.
Absolutely.
It's a long game.
Long game, yeah.
It requires patience, consistency.
Yeah.
Solid understanding of the risks involved.
Right. Successful investors, they take that long-term view, right? Weather the market fluctuations, focus on that steady growth over time.
It's about time in the market.
Exactly. Not timing the market.
Right. And speaking of long-term thinking, let's talk about credit. The guide really highlights how a good credit history is it's so crucial.
Yeah.
For loans affecting interest rates.
Absolutely.
Your overall financial health.
It really is. Think about credit. It's like a double-edged sword.
How interesting.
Used wisely, it opens doors to financial opportunities.
Buying a house.
Buying a house, starting a business. But mishandled, it can lead to this mountain of debt that can be really, really tough to climb out of.
Yeah. The guide has this cautionary tale about Vince.
Right, yeah.
Learns the hard way about credit card debt.
Oh, yeah.
Makes this impulsive purchase. Finances a new TV on one of those store credit cards.
Oh, yeah.
Sky-high interest rate. What happens?
Well, Vince ends up paying $700 more for that TV because of the interest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like a reminder, right?
Yeah.
The sticker price versus the true cost of something.
Right.
Especially when you're using credit.
Ouch. That's a pricey lesson. Makes me think about all those credit terms, APR, finance charges, all that stuff.
Yeah.
The guide really stresses the importance of understanding those details before you sign on the dotted line.
Yeah, it's easy to fall into those easy payment traps.
Right.
Buy now, pay later.
Yeah.
But you got to consider the long term. Right?
Yeah. One more thing that really stood out in this section was the talk about credit repair services.
Oh, yeah.
Those services that promise to erase bad credit history.
Right.
I feel like they prey on people who are already struggling.
Yeah.
Offering this quick fix that's too good to be true.
Right. And there's no magic wand. Right.
Right.
It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes responsible behavior to really rebuild your credit score.
So what's the one thing you hope our listeners kind of really grasp from this first part of the deep dive?
Well, I'd say the key message is that building wealth is holistic.
Okay.
It's not just about saving or investing. It's about understanding how all these pieces connect, assets, liabilities, budgeting, interest rates, credit, debt.
Yeah.
They all play a role in your overall financial well-being.
That's a perfect way to sum it up. Building wealth is like building a house.
Yeah.
You need a strong foundation to support everything else.
Yeah.
And understanding those fundamental concepts, that's like laying those bricks one by one.
We'll be right back to delve even deeper into some more advanced strategies for building wealth. Stay tuned. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground so far, from defining wealth and understanding assets to the power of budgeting and compound interest. But let's get back to building wealth through entrepreneurship, because I found David's story really inspiring.
Yeah, that's a great story.
He and his wife saved diligently to start their own HVAC company, and it seems like it's really paid off for them. Yeah, it has.
What are your thoughts on that approach to wealth building?
You know, it's interesting. The guide highlights entrepreneurship as this path to wealth.
Yes.
But it also stresses the importance of, like, having all the other pieces in place first.
Right.
David and his wife, they didn't just jump into starting a business. They had a plan. They saved. They built that solid financial foundation first.
Right, like they built that strong base we were talking about
Already going.
before they started adding floors to the house.
I like that analogy.
Speaking of foundations, there's this concept the guide introduces called individual development accounts, or IDAs.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of those?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, IDAs are really interesting. They're these special savings accounts designed for people with lower incomes.
Okay.
And what's really cool is that the deposits that the account holder makes are often matched by like contributions from foundations or government agencies.
Wow.
It's like a turbocharged savings plan.
That's incredible. It seems like a really powerful way to help people break out of the cycle of poverty and build a more secure financial future.
Absolutely. It shows that there are these innovative approaches to wealth building that go beyond just the traditional methods.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk more about credit. I know we touched on it earlier with the whole credit card debt thing,
Right.
but the guide really emphasizes this idea of building and maintaining a good credit history. It even says good credit saves money while bad credit costs money. How does that work exactly?
Well, think about it this way. When you apply for a loan, whether it's a mortgage, a car loan, even a credit card,
Right.
lenders use your credit history to assess your risk. If you have a good credit history, meaning you've paid your bills on time, you've managed credit responsibly, lenders see you as low to risk, and that translates into lower interest rates.
So having good credit can literally save you thousands of dollars over the life of a loan. That's huge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On the flip side, if you have bad credit, lenders see you as a higher risk, which means they'll charge you higher interest rates to compensate for that risk.
Right.
And that can really add up, making it way more expensive to borrow money.
So what are some practical steps that people can take to build good credit, especially if they're just starting out?
The guide suggests starting with a secured credit card.
Okay.
It requires a deposit, which becomes your credit limit, so it's lower risk for the lender. By using the card responsibly, paying your bills on time, you start establishing that positive credit history.
I remember when I got my first secured credit card.
Yeah.
It felt like such a big step toward adulting.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It was like my first real, foray into the world of credit. It's like getting the keys to the car, but you have to prove you can drive responsibly before you can, take it on the highway.
That's a great analogy.
All right, now let's tackle the elephant in the room.
Okay.
We all have it, whether it's student loans, credit card balances, a mortgage. The guide reminds us of that wealth equation.
Right.
Taking on additional debt, it reduces your net worth.
Yeah.
What's the best way to, think about managing debt?
It's about asking yourself, am I building wealth or am I building debt? With every financial decision.
That's a good question.
It's easy to get caught up in those easy payments, buy now, pay later schemes.
Right.
But you got to consider that long-term impact.
Right. Before you swipe that credit card or sign on the dotted line, the guide suggests asking yourself some key questions.
Yeah, like, do you have a budget?
Right.
Do you have emergency savings? Can you comfortably make these payments without, totally jeopardizing your financial stability?
These are all good things to consider.
It's about being proactive, making informed choices, not just, reacting impulsively.
Right. Okay, I got to bring this up again because it's so important. Compound interest.
Yeah, the double-edged sword.
Earlier, we talked about how it can be, amazing for your investments.
Right.
But when it comes to debt, it can be a real nightmare.
It's that snowball effect we talked about. But instead of growing bigger in your favor, the debt snowballs rolling downhill, crushing you with all those interest charges. The longer it takes to pay it off, the more you end up paying in interest.
And the guide brings back Vince,
Right.
our impulsive spender friend.
To illustrate the point.
He financed that new TV on a high-interest credit card.
Yeah, it's a stark contrast to Sonia, our meticulous budgeter.
Yeah.
She saved up and paid cash. Vince went for instant gratification.
Yeah.
Paid a hefty price in interest.
So Sonia paid $1,500 for your TV. Vince ended up shelling out $2,200 for the same TV because of the high interest rates.
Ouch.
It's like he paid a $700 penalty for not being patient.
That's a good way to put it.
So what are some actionable steps people can take to manage and reduce their debt? I mean, the guide has to have some advice, right?
It does. The first step the guide suggests is to analyze your current debt situation.
Okay.
List out all your credit card balances, interest rates, minimum monthly payments. It's like taking inventory of your debt so you can make a plan to tackle it.
I love that analogy. It's like Marie Kondoing your debt.
Exactly. Get it all out in the open, see what you're dealing with. Then the guide suggests exploring options for consolidating your debt. This could be transferring balances to a lower interest credit card or negotiating with your current creditors.
Okay, so it's about being proactive, seeking out opportunities to improve your situation.
Right.
Not just accepting the status quo.
Exactly. And sometimes it's as simple as making a phone call to your credit card company.
Really?
Yeah, asking for a lower interest rate. You'd be surprised how often they're willing to work with you, especially if you have good payment history.
Now, I know we're focusing on personal finance here, but a lot of people also have, like, student loans.
Right.
The guide must touch on that, right?
It does. And it really emphasizes the importance of shopping around for the lowest interest rate possible.
Okay.
Whether it's a car loan, a mortgage, a student loan, getting that lower interest rate can save you so much money over the life of a loan.
I remember when I was shopping for student loans, it felt so overwhelming. All those options and terms, it was like easy to just go with the first offer.
Right.
But it really pays to do your research, compare rates.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The guide actually provides an example, comparing car loan offers from different lenders.
Oh, cool.
It shows how even a small difference in the interest rate can mean big savings over time.
So even like 0.25% can make a big difference in the long run.
Exactly. It's like tiny leaks in a boat.
Right.
They might seem small at first, but over time, they can sink the ship.
That's a good way to visualize it.
Right.
Now, this next part is a bit sobering, but the guide brings up something I think is important to address: predatory lending practices.
Yeah.
That often target vulnerable individuals.
It's a real problem.
And trap them in cycles of high interest debt.
Yeah, predatory lending, it preys on people who are already struggling financially. They use deceptive tactics, promise easy loans with low costs. But the reality is totally different. Right. Those interest rates and fees are sky high, making it almost impossible to repay.
The guide tells this story about Bess, a 73-year-old widow who fell victim to a predatory lender.
It's heartbreaking.
She was struggling to make ends meet, took out this high-interest loan,
right,
and it quickly spiraled out of control.
It's a cautionary tale,
yeah,
reminding us that there are people out there who will take advantage of others' financial vulnerabilities.
So what are some red flags, that people should watch out for to avoid falling into those traps?
Well, one common tactic is like pressuring you to sign immediately without giving you time to read the terms.
Oh, yeah.
They might also promise, like, loans with no credit check or guaranteed approval, regardless of your situation.
Right.
Those are often signs that something's fishy.
If it feels too good to be true, it probably is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, there are resources available to help. Don't be afraid to reach out to a reputable credit counseling agency or a financial advisor for guidance.
Okay, so let's get back to, some more practical tips. The guide really emphasizes paying bills on time.
Yeah.
Maintaining a good financial track record.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It seems simple, but it's also easy to let things slip.
Right.
The guide suggests using tools like direct deposit and auto debit to kind of automate those payments.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
It minimizes the risk of late payments.
Right.
Which can hurt your credit score.
It takes the human error out of the equation.
Exactly.
Like setting your finances on autopilot. I like that. Speaking of protecting your finances, the guide talks about safeguarding your identity and financial information from fraud. Identity theft seems like it's becoming more and more common.
It is a growing concern.
Yeah.
It's important to be proactive. The guide suggests shredding sensitive documents, being careful about sharing personal information online.
Right.
And monitoring your credit reports.
So it's about being vigilant, treating your information like the valuable asset it is. Okay. We've covered building and protecting wealth. But what about those unexpected events, accidents, illnesses, things we can't always plan for?
That's where insurance comes in.
Right. So it's not just about building wealth, it's about protecting it.
Exactly. It's like having a safety net.
Okay. The guide covers various types of insurance, starting with property insurance, which includes auto and home insurance.
Right.
Let's break down these different types. What are the key takeaways on auto insurance?
Well, auto insurance is legally required in most states.
Right.
It provides coverage if you cause injuries or property damage in an accident. The guide suggests exploring higher deductibles to reduce your premium costs.
Okay.
Especially if you have a good emergency fund to cover those potential out-of-pocket expenses.
So it's about finding that balance between risk and cost.
Exactly.
And what about homeowners insurance?
For homeowners, the guide emphasizes getting homeowners insurance to cover their property and possessions against things like fire or theft. It also mentions considering a higher deductible, similar to auto insurance.
So again, it's that balance between risk and cost.
Right, but with your home, it's not just about the financial protection. It's also about peace of mind.
Right, right. Now what about renters?
Renters insurance is important.
Yeah.
Because a landlord's insurance usually only covers the building itself, not the renter's belongings.
Right.
Renter's insurance protects your personal property
in
case of theft, fire, water damage.
So it's important even if you don't think you own a lot of valuable stuff.
Right. You'd be surprised how much it would cost to replace everything.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, let's move on to health insurance. Big one these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
The guide really emphasizes the importance of health insurance.
For good reason. Medical expenses can wipe out your savings.
Right.
Health insurance provides a financial buffer against those unexpected health challenges.
Like a cushion.
Yeah. It's about mitigating risk and making sure you can access health care without going into debt. And the guide encourages everyone to carefully consider their budget and their savings when choosing a plan.
So it's about finding a plan that provides enough coverage but doesn't, break the bank.
Right, finding that sweet spot.
Now, what about disability insurance? That's one people don't always think about.
The guide points out that the risk of becoming disabled before age 65 is actually higher than you might think.
Oh, wow.
Disability insurance can provide income if you can't work due to illness or injury.
So it's like an income safety net.
Exactly, protecting your financial stability.
And then there's life insurance. Can be a tough topic.
It can.
But important to think about, especially if you have people who depend on you.
The guide explains that life insurance provides financial protection for your loved ones in case of your death.
Right.
The death benefit can help cover expenses, replace lost income.
So it's about providing for your family even after you're gone.
Exactly. The guide mentions that while some types of life insurance have savings components, they're not substitutes for dedicated savings plans. It suggests that low-cost term insurance is a good option for young families.
Okay, so term life insurance is good for those starting out, needing basic coverage.
Right.
But as your needs change, you might need to look at other types of life insurance.
Exactly. It's important to reassess your needs periodically.
Now, there's one more type of insurance the guide talks about, long-term care insurance. That's something people don't think about until later in life.
Yeah, but the cost of long-term care can be a huge burden.
The guide acknowledges that the cost of things like nursing home care can deplete your savings.
Right.
Long-term care insurance can help cover those costs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a safety net for later in life.
Okay, so we've covered a lot on insurance. Any final tips for our listeners on buying insurance wisely?
The guide really emphasizes taking advantage of group insurance offered through employers or associations.
Okay.
Anticipate your family's needs, shop around for quotes, compare coverage and costs.
So be proactive, do your research.
Exactly.
Find the best coverage at the best price.
And review your insurance coverage every year.
Okay.
Make sure it still aligns with your needs.
So we've tackled a lot of big topics today, from budgeting and saving to investing in insurance. I think the key takeaway is that building wealth is a journey, not a destination.
I agree with that.
It's about making smart choices, taking risks, and building that solid financial foundation.
For yourself and your loved ones.
Absolutely. And it's never too late to start, right?
Never too late. Yeah. Whether you're just beginning or you're well on your way, there's always room for improvement.
Well said. I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Yeah.
The guide focuses on these traditional financial tools.
Right.
But the world of finance is constantly changing.
It is.
New technologies, new investment approaches popping up all the time.
All the time.
So as you continue on your wealth building journey, stay curious, stay informed, don't be afraid to explore.
I like that. Explore those uncharted waters.
Right. Who knows what treasures you might discover? We'll be back after a short break to wrap things up and maybe explore some final thoughts on building wealth in today's, kind of crazy financial world.
All right. We really dug deep into this building wealth guide, covered everything from, budgeting basics to the complexities of insurance. But before we go, I want to come back to that question from the very beginning. What is your definition of wealth?
Yeah, such a good question, right? Because, we've talked about it. Wealth is more than just like money in the bank. It's about freedom, security, being able to do the things you want to do.
I got to admit, my own definition of wealth, it's definitely changed over time. When I was younger, I thought, wealth was about having enough money to buy the coolest stuff, travel all these amazing places.
Yeah.
But now it's more about having that financial security, being able to pursue my passions, support my family, maybe even make a difference in the world.
I think that shift is pretty common.
As people, they get a little older, their priorities change.
Right.
The guide encourages readers to think about their definition of wealth after learning all this stuff and see if, their views have changed at all. What about you? Has your understanding of wealth changed through this deep dive?
It has, honestly. Hearing about David's story, the entrepreneur, those individual development accounts, even just going back to the basics of budgeting and saving, it's made me realize that wealth it's about having a plan, taking control, building a life that you really value.
I love that. And I think the guide does a great job of like giving people the tools, to take control of their financial futures. It's not just about like following rules. It's about understanding the ideas and creating your own strategy.
Right. It's like it gives you the building blocks, the tools, and then it says like, go build your own masterpiece.
Exactly. And speaking of building, the guide gives this really helpful checklist. Things to think about, like it's a roadmap for building wealth. Things like, learn about money, set clear goals,
right,
make a budget, save, explore those tax-advantaged investments, research your options, build your credit, manage it wisely, and, of course, protect everything you've worked for.
It's a pretty comprehensive list, covers all the things we've talked about, but it's not just a list, right? It's a call to action. The guide ends with this powerful message. Start budgeting, saving, and investing today.
Yeah.
Every day counts in building wealth.
Love that. It's like, that reminder that time, it's your most valuable asset. The sooner you start, the better.
Right. It's like that saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today.
Exactly. And while this guide gives you a great foundation, I think it's important to remember that personal finance, it's a lifelong journey. Mm-hmm. You're always learning, you're always adapting. Things change, so you got to stay curious, stay informed, and be open to new ideas.
Absolutely. And that's what we try to do here on the Deep Dive, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Go beyond the surface, explore different viewpoints, give you the tools to make those informed decisions.
Exactly. So as you think about all the things we've talked about, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
The guide focuses on those traditional tools.
Right.
But what about technology?
Yeah, good point.
How can those new technologies and new investment approaches help you build wealth?
That's a great question to think about. We live in this, this crazy time of technological change, and the world of finance is right in the middle of it all. Robo-advisors, online platforms, crypto, blockchain, it's all changing how we manage money.
So as you go on your journey, don't be afraid to try new things, to explore those new ideas, and to challenge how we've always done things. The future of wealth, it's being created now, and it's up to us to decide how we want to be a part of it.
Well said. And on that note of exploration and taking control, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into building wealth. We hope you've learned some things that you can use to build your own brighter financial future. Remember, building wealth, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and we're here to support you all the way. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.